The ledger. Daniel had been on the road for 15 years. Pharmaceutical sales, a territory that stretched from Hartford to Halifax, hotel rooms that all smelled the same, rental cars that all drove the same. He came home every other weekend with duty-free chocolate and a tired smile, and Claire would meet him at the door in something soft, and for 48 hours they would pretend the marriage was the marriage they had described to the priest. Claire's affair began in the ordinary way. A contractor, then a neighbor, then a man from her yoga class whose name she said too often and then stopped saying it all. She told herself it was loneliness. She told herself Daniel had stopped seeing her years ago, that a woman could only stand so much absence before absence became a kind of permission. She was careful. She used a second phone. She kept the receipts in a shoebox in the garage, under a tarp, behind a bag of mulch. For 3 years she lived 2 lives, and the second one fit her better than the first. Then, on a Tuesday in October, Daniel left his laptop open. He had flown in late, slept badly, and gone to shower before his 9 o'clock call. Claire walked past the kitchen island to refill her coffee and the screen woke at her motion. An email thread. A woman named Renata. Then, scrolling, a woman named Priya. Then a folder, neatly labeled by city, Boston, Toronto, Montreal, Burlington, Portland, each containing photographs, hotel confirmations, and a small spreadsheet of dates that went back, she realized with a slow cold feeling in her stomach, to the year before their wedding. Not 3 years. Not 5. 16. He had been unfaithful to her before he had been faithful to her. He had married her already lying. She closed the laptop very gently, the way you close the door on a sleeping child. She went upstairs. She listened to the water running. She thought, for one strange clean moment, I could simply leave him. Pack a bag. Take the dog. Be gone before the towel came off the rack. But something else had already begun to move in her, something older than the marriage, older than the affairs, something with teeth. She did not leave. She began, instead, to keep a ledger. Over the next 4 months, Claire became a different kind of wife. She was warmer. She asked about his trips. She bought him a better suitcase. She installed, on the new phone she gave him for his birthday, 3 pieces of software she had paid a man on the internet $800 to choose for her. She mirrored his laptop. She copied the folders. She found the second bank account, the one in Delaware, and she photographed every statement. She found the apartment in Toronto. The lease was in his name. He had been paying for it for 9 years. She found the child. A boy. 7 years old. In Montreal. Daniel sent his mother $2,200 on the 1st of every month, through a shell company called Meridian Consulting, which existed only as a mailbox in Wilmington and a checking account Claire now had the password to. She sat in her kitchen the night she found the boy and she did not cry. She made a list. His employer. His clients. His sister, who had always disliked Claire and would now, Claire thought with a small flat smile, have something to choke on. The medical board, because 2 of the women were doctors he had been promoting drugs to, and that was a violation that ended careers. The IRS, because Meridian Consulting had never filed. The boy's mother, because the boy's mother believed Daniel was a divorced widower from Ottawa who could not, sadly, ever quite get free of his obligations up north. Claire built the file for 4 more months. She hired a lawyer in secret. She moved 60% of the joint savings into an account in her name only. She had the house appraised. She took the dog to the vet and updated the dog's chip to her name. Then, on a Sunday in March, while Daniel was in Halifax, she pressed send. 47 emails. Each with the relevant attachments. Each addressed by name. By Tuesday afternoon, Daniel had been fired. By Wednesday, the medical board had opened an inquiry into 2 of his contacts. By Friday, the IRS had frozen Meridian Consulting and was working its way, with great patience, toward the joint return. The boy's mother had stopped answering Daniel's calls. His sister had called him a coward in a voicemail that lasted 4 minutes. 2 of the women had threatened to sue him. One of them, the one in Boston, did. Daniel came home on Saturday. He did not have a job, he did not have a phone that worked, he did not have access to the accounts. He sat at the kitchen island where he had left the laptop open 5 months earlier, and he put his face in his hands and he wept, and Claire watched him from the doorway and felt, for the first time in 16 years of marriage, that she had been seen. She filed for divorce on Monday. She thought that would be the end of the story. She thought she had won. She had not understood, yet, what she had done to herself. The first thing was the lawyer's bill. Then the forensic accountant. Then the second lawyer, because the IRS, having pulled the thread of Meridian Consulting, did not stop pulling. The joint return had her signature on it. She had not known about the shell company, but she had signed, every April, the document that said she had. Willful blindness, the new lawyer explained gently, is not, in the eyes of the federal government, the same as innocence. The penalties were assessed jointly. Daniel had nothing. Claire had the house, and the 60%, and now a lien on both. The second thing was the women. 2 of them, learning of each other through the lawsuit, learning of Claire through the lawsuit, sued Claire as well, for tortious interference, for invasion of privacy, for the distribution of intimate photographs the man on the internet had pulled off Daniel's cloud and Claire had cheerfully forwarded to their employers. She had not known, she said. She had not read the law. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a very level voice, said that ignorance of the law was famously not a defense, and awarded damages. The third thing was her own affair. Daniel's lawyer, a quiet man named Aronson, had been doing his own arithmetic. He had subpoenaed her phone. He had subpoenaed the second phone. He had found the contractor, the neighbor, the man from yoga. He had found, more damagingly, the 4 months in which Claire had pretended to love a man she was already preparing to destroy, months in which she had accepted gifts, taken vacations on his dime, and signed, with a steady hand, a refinance that had freed up the cash she then moved into her own account. Fraud, Aronson said. Not adultery. Adultery in this state was nothing. Fraud was something. The court agreed. The fourth thing was the boy. Claire had not, when she sent the emails, thought very much about the boy. She had thought about the mother, and the mother's humiliation, and how the humiliation would travel, like a current, back into Daniel and light him up from the inside. She had not thought about a 7-year-old in Montreal opening a door and finding his mother on the floor of the kitchen and not understanding why. The boy's mother killed herself in May. The boy went to Daniel, who had nothing, who was living in a studio above a dry cleaner in a town Claire had never heard of, and Daniel, broken, unemployed, under federal investigation, drinking, could not keep him. The boy went into the system. Claire read about it in an email from Aronson, who included it, she understood, not out of cruelty but out of a lawyerly sense that she ought to know what her file contained. She sat with the email open for a long time. By the following spring Claire had lost the house. The IRS took what the lawsuits had not. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment over a laundromat on the other side of town, and she worked, now, as a bookkeeper for a man who did not know her story and did not ask. The dog had died. Her sister had stopped calling. The women from yoga, who had been her friends, had read the depositions, which were public, and had quietly closed the group chat she used to be in. Daniel, she heard, had moved to Montreal to be near the boy, who was in a foster placement there. He was sober. He was working in a warehouse. He visited the boy on Saturdays. He had, against every prediction, become a father. Claire sat in her apartment on a Sunday evening in November, 3 years after the Tuesday in October when the laptop had woken at her motion, and she tried to remember what she had been trying to do. She had wanted to be seen. She had wanted him to feel, for one clean second, what she had felt standing in that kitchen. She had wanted, she understood now, to be the one telling the story instead of the one inside it. Instead, she had become a woman who lived over a laundromat, whose name appeared in 2 reported decisions, whose only remaining piece of furniture from the old house was a kitchen island stool that did not match anything, and who had, somewhere along the way, killed a woman she had never met and orphaned a child she had never seen. She did not cry. She had stopped crying about a year before, the way people stop, not by deciding but by running out. She sat at the small table by the window, and she opened her laptop, and she looked, for a long time, at the cursor blinking in an empty document, and she thought, with the flat quiet of a woman who had set fire to a house to kill a spider, and stood now in the ash, and noticed for the first time that she had been living in the house. Outside, a realtor's sign turned slowly in the wind. She thought, with a clarity that came too late to be of any use. I could have just left him.